Roku's onerous terms, Apple, Google, and AI, and AirTags under fire. Again, this is Mac Voices. Mac Voices is supported by the MacVoices Slack. Discussions, questions, and answers, and a place to talk tech with your friends. The MacVoices Slack is available to all patrons of Mac Voices. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices and join in. To keep our theme of security and tracking and all that going here, I want to throw something in. This was left over from last week. We didn't get to it last week, and then one of our patrons brought it up in the Mac Voices Slack, and I thought it was important that we do. If any of you are using a Roku device, unless you agree to their new terms of service, they potentially can lock you out. And
what do you mean potentially? They do it immediately.
Yeah, well, they will immediately. This article I flipped in indicates there are some ways around it, which that's you got to figure out if it's worth it or not. But this kind of heavy-handedness. On the other hand, me, I love to play devil's advocate. Is this any heavier-handed than anytime you fire up a new piece of software? No, all respect intended, Jim. But if you don't agree to their license terms, it doesn't let you install it. So the difference here seems to be that Roku has changed their terms and now demands that you accept them, and that's a pretty big difference. But it is a difference. Any thoughts on this? How you feel about this? Is this and then asking people to write a letter in as opposed to giving an electronic option?
And not only do you have to write a letter, you have to submit your original paperwork that, of course, you've kept in a convenient, findable place of when you purchased the device. So it's basically impossible to get around this. And I think the fact that this is happening to people that bought their equipment more than a year ago, and they're just turning on the TV to watch TV, and it's like, agree to this, or that's the end of your device that you purchased a year and a half ago. It's just throw it away.
One of the things that frustrated me was the fact that there was no grace period or no grandfathering in time or anything. It was just, here it is. It's like, different. Maybe if you said in 3 months, as of this date, if you continue to use the service after such and such date, this is the new terms and conditions. Okay. But, it's not good.
Anybody else? I mean, anybody here using a Roku device that they've run into this problem with?
Yeah, I've got a Roku. It's sitting right here on my desk. I don't use it that often because there are so many other streaming devices that I get my content from. It was a cheap device. I picked it up and gave it to a friend to use while they were living in Kent as an international student, so they'd have something to connect to their television, and I got it back. It's hooked up, and I don't think I've turned it on in a while because I've got other options to get streaming. And for me, it becomes, another, is the market going to eat them up on this? Or, as Jeff always says, people aren't paying attention and they just push the button anyways. When I read the article, I couldn't figure out why they would change their terms of agreement. What was pushing them to make these changes in legal protection? Have they been afraid of being sued over things? I'm trying to figure it out.
I don't know. Ben Rathig is in our chat room. He couldn't be with us tonight, but he said that he was not planning on buying any more Rokus after his TCL. I have a TCL sitting in my living room, which runs on Roku, and not the box. It's built into the TV. I have not seen this yet. I'm hoping I don't. So it makes me wonder if this is more for just certain devices, or is it for some of the standalone Roku products? I haven't dug deep enough into this because, again, if it doesn't affect you tend to let it go by. But I'm going to be really ticked if come Saturday or tomorrow night, I want to watch something on my big screen, and all of a sudden it's saying no.
I know for me, I don't use a Roku hardware device, but I did sign up, one time, maybe a year and a half ago. They have something called, I think it's called Roku Channel or something. It's something
it's a Roku
there was a
channel.
movie.
Mm.
Yeah, there was a movie that was on there that was the exclusive home of it or something. So,
It was
I
Weird
went
Al.
ahead. That's what it was. That's it. I signed up for it, enjoyed the film and didn't think anything of it after that,
It was
but
so bad.
yeah, I had gotten but I got an email probably about a week ago from Roku saying updating terms of service. It was like, yep. So not just the hardware.
That's interesting.
Chuck, in your case, I would assume this means that the Roku app on your television would not function. Not that they're bricking your whole television. But if you buy a Roku branded television, that would be a different thing. This also underscores why I am so adamantly against smart televisions, period. And I dread the day that my now, I think, 17-year-old Sony Bravia finally dies, because when I replace it, the television will be a smart TV, regardless of the fact that I will never use any of the smart television features. It will never be connected to my network. It will be, I will use it as if it is just a large display, like I currently use my TV, and it just plugs into an Apple TV box, and everything runs through the Apple TV box itself. But man, if I was in a position where I had, say, a Roku television, and it comes up with these terms and services that I have to agree to before I can watch the next episode of Star Wars: The Bad Batch, and the only way to opt out is to write a letter, send in my receipt, and wait for them to receive it, and then reactivate my television. Oh, forking no. No. That would be the end of it. I would never be a Roku customer again, and I would probably have to recycle the television because of the damage to it as I yanked it off of the stand, ran over to Costco and bought something else.
Jeff, I hope when the time comes that you can do what you just described, because some of the more recent TVs that I've had the opportunity to work with, happily not mine, but some other friends, they have to be connected to the internet.
I have thought about this.
They have to have a live connection. And now whether you can have a live connection, set up your Apple TV, and then take the connection off, I don't know. But
yeah, if that's the case, like if I cannot buy a television and turn it on, at least initially, without having it connected to the internet, then I will just suck it up and I'll buy a really big computer display, and I put that where my television goes.
Or Marty just suggested Marty, tell him what you just suggested. Yeah, we can
get a Vision Pro, Jeff. It's got your Apple TV built in. It's got the whole headset and the large screen TV,
and it frees up a ton of space in the living room.
I don't know, and
more room on the wall for your macrames.
That's right.
Listen, audience, I would love to hear chat room. There's been a lot of comments going on in there, but if there's anyone out there who is having any experience with the Roku software in, say, a TCL TV or any of the other TVs that have it, let me know. Chuck at MacVoices.com. I'd like to know, selfishly, to know if I have this coming down the road at me, but also just how far Roku is trying to push this. Maybe it's just another sign of the times. I don't know.
I'm thinking Roku is probably hoping that people, just like everybody else, when you get terms of service, they just kind of okay and just click okay and not even think about it. But this obviously got a lot more attention than they had thought. it's interesting to what the terms are, and I didn't even look at it honestly because I didn't pay much of a big deal out of it, but I see why it can be a concern for what they're asking.
Yeah. So one of the hot stories going right now, and I intentionally didn't make it our lead story because I was afraid it would just suck up the whole show. And that is that Apple, I know this is one of those things I hate, might use Google Gemini to power some AI features on the iPhone. I feel like this has been talked about so much, but I also think that we need to get your thoughts on it because I can't decide whether this is a good thing. It wouldn't be a good thing. I've heard people say it will never happen because of the regulators won't let it. I've heard other people say there's no reason the regulators would look at this unless somebody complains. That should take about 5 minutes. Does this make sense? Is it a good idea? Does it affect the privacy discussions we've been having here at all? Since you have arguably the tech world's most reliable company from a privacy standpoint, Apple, potentially partnering with the one who makes most of their money off of your private information, Google. Anybody who wants to start with this one?
Yeah, I mean, I could throw it in. Go back to their exclusivity with Google and search engine. Does anybody complain about that? I mean, that's been the exclusivity for Apple for a long time, and Google pays them a lot of money to be prominent as their default search engine. I guess AI is going to be a little different because it does intrude a little more on your privacy, or at least can. Concerns of photos or fake photos that could be doing all kinds of other searches that you may not want to see, and answers to things that you ask it with questions, the way AI has been working. So I don't know, there's a balance. I mean, like, so look at the search engine and look at Gemini. Where is the balance between the two?
Brian?
Yeah, so the way I see this is if it's for the on-device machine learning type things, if it's run and operated by Apple, Apple has a reputation of privacy, and I certainly hope that they do not do anything to possibly violate that privacy. But on the search engine side of things, obviously, if you go in and you ask S-Lady for something and it comes back with search results from the web, I believe oftentimes that is that that Google information you're getting. If you're getting that information from Google, and if Google themselves is moving more towards using their AI generative AI type responses, I think if you can have that choice to turn that aspect off. I've been trying to distance myself a lot from Google's products. In search engines, I've been using DuckDuckGo and things of that nature instead. I think if you had that opportunity to separate yourself from it, it's okay, I guess, but I'm not thrilled about hearing the relationship there with Google.
Jeff?
Holy crap. But also, keep in mind, we don't know if this is happening or what the actual details are. Saying that Apple might license Gemini is not the same thing as saying Apple is going to send all of your AI related requests out to Google for processing and then back to your phone. There are a lot of AI systems that are designed to be internal, meaning, for example, you can license OpenAI's generative AI tools and then install them in a private server system. And so everything's running locally. Apple could be doing a similar thing, but it might be that Apple is just licensing some of the technologies to use in their own AI systems. And to think that Apple and Google commingling AI resources is crazy, no, it's not. Apple has been working on all kinds of AI resources that they've put out for general use, and Google uses Apple's tools in their AI systems. So this is not completely out of the realm of possibility. I think if Apple is doing some deal with Google, it's going to be something that allows for a very controlled and contained way of using certain Google technologies, and not just like performing a Google search from your phone where it goes out to Google, comes back, and they've been able to track the whole thing.
Eric?
Yeah, I think Apple will end up using quite a few models on its devices. It's not going to be just one or switching to one service. It wouldn't surprise me if there were 15 or 20 models sitting on a device. And nothing about any of these articles is saying where these models are hosted. Apple has always been looking for doing on-device whatever, and if they have to have something not be on the device, then they're going to want to host it themselves. But I think one of the reasons why the devices are getting more and more powerful is to put models on the device to do things. And if you have more than one model, you can have one model check the other, or a model that's very tightly aimed at a particular subject, like sorting images, and not let it get confused with politics. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. And as much as I don't like AI in a lot of cases, the sort of more targeted way of dealing with it, it reminds me a lot of when they were doing speech recognition. The early speech recognition was terrible, but if you give a limited vocabulary, it's gotten better and better. So if you have a bunch of different targeted models, that's where I think this is going.
You make a really interesting point, Eric, that Apple may reach out to a lot of different sources as part of the whole LLM AI process. Marty?
Yeah, in fact, I read something where Apple over the last 2 years has bought up about 30 different small AI systems, and that primarily what we've heard from Apple is that they're trying to prepare something that's on device and the use will be on device, so you have more control over that. The other unique aspect of it is they're going to be combining LLMs with graphic AIs and using that as a generative process for providing solutions. And then the other thing I've heard is that Apple is going to start paying for legitimate sources, because legitimate sources are beginning to sue AIs for their use and not getting a reference or not getting credit for providing that information. So I think it's a lot brighter, and a less scarier than what we're presented with in terms of Google, and also in terms of Microsoft. I mean, Copilot's on everything now, and that's a lot of data for Microsoft too. So,
yeah, I think it's really interesting, Marty. You bring that up because when I started hearing these stories, I thought, okay, OpenAI is the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room as far as AI and LLMs go right now, and Microsoft jumped on them, and and there were no concerns over antitrust, or the regulators weren't jumping on that. And yet the first thing that happened here when we started hearing about this is, well, the regulators are going to stop this. Well, it's not the first thing we heard, but it's among the first things we heard. So it's like, why weren't the regulators concerned with OpenAI and Microsoft? And look how Microsoft has leveraged that into a large number of their products.
It's hard for Apple to fly under the radar, but I think they are really protective of their public opinion. That they want to. I want to believe they're protective of the public, but they also want the public and the users to feel like they're protected. And these other giants are doing stuff, some of it on the surface and some of it under the surface. But they don't have the reputation I think that Apple does. But it also attracts a lot of eyes on Apple for what they do, and potentially some criticism.
Potentially. What time is it? Okay, so let's keep this going. And again, the whole privacy theme, but this is a whole different thing. And you know how we love lawsuits here on MacVoices.
You especially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. This is a lawsuit that apparently is going to be allowed to go forward in California, of course. It's an anti-stalking, AirTag anti-stalking class action lawsuit. So let's see, how many ways can I really dislike that whole title? But the judge, I guess, was convinced that Apple could have done more, and so it's if I read the articles right, so they're letting it proceed. So it's not they're not finding Apple guilty at this stage, but they're letting it proceed instead of just dismissing it summarily. And it still bothers me for all the reasons we've talked about this for years, that this is a tracking device. And there are lots of tracking devices out there. If it didn't track, then it would be useless. Am I just being simple?
Bless your heart, Chuck.
Did I just boil it down, Jeff, or did I miss something?
No, you nailed it. So this is a lawsuit that, if it was necessary, should have happened long before the AirTag was a product, because Apple is not the first company to create these small pocket-size, edible, if you're brave enough, trackers. And yet Apple's the company that got hammered for releasing this. And everyone was saying, yeah, but with Apple, it's so much easier to track. And okay, well, good for Apple for making something that's easy for consumers to use. However, Tile made it super easy to track. And then people would say, yeah, but there's not as big a network. Okay, Apple or Tile already had the deal with Amazon, so all of those Echo devices that are out there in the world, by default, are tracking for Tile. So it's not like the iPhone and the AirTag had a monopoly on personal tracking. So the big problem that I'm seeing with this lawsuit is it should have happened before Apple was doing anything, and it's happening now because Apple has deep pockets and is a big name.
I think you just hit it. I think it's the big pockets and the big name. It's the one that's going to catch people's attention. Because and look, I don't want anybody suing any of these trackers. Tile makes a great product. We talked to Chipolo at CES. They make great tracking products. There are a lot of these great tracking products out there that are potentially subject to misuse, just like your household steak knife is potentially subject to abuse or misuse. If it gets into the wrong hands. So I struggle with this because it just seems like it's all about the class action suit. It's all about the money. Anybody else want in on this? Okay, then.
Why hasn't Stanley been hit with the class action lawsuit for designing a nail insertion device that can also be used to break your car window? It's called a hammer.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going with one of the nail guns because they can be just as deadly as a regular gun.
You can kill someone with a nail gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
Okay,
point.
you can kill someone with the hammer too, but you don't get the cool sound to go with it.
Jeff, so they tell you can do that is what you should say, right? You haven't had experience doing that.
So I hear.
Yeah.
It's messy, though. I mean, I would assume it would be messy.
As would I. I would assume that as well.
Wow.
I would also assume someone would lay down a lot of plastic first.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would make so much of a difference. I mean, yeah.
Easy cleanup.
Wow. Okay.
I just went with a room with a drain. I thought maybe that would be, but yeah, plastic. Not as environmental.
Yeah,
Are you
but
sure?
We've gone dark.
think about everything
we
that's
have.
going into the plastic. You're
Ow.
recycling.
Yeah, okay.
Are you two
Are we
related
gonna
to
have to
Agatha
dark now?
Christie? What's going on here?
Oh, Chuck's been here listening.
Oh.
Okay, Eric, meet you at Chuck's in an hour.
Oh, good.
I'll bring the supplies.
This may be the last Mac Voices After Dark or show live, whatever. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.